is City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. Today I'm creating a layout for the Mixed Media Frenzy Hop for February. This month's challenge is to scrap lift this beautiful layout by Missy Whitten. I'm attempting to scrap lift it by using the same idea in the top of the layout. You can see that she has a strip of paper that is covered in rainbow colors. So in order to create the rainbow colors, I am using some Holtz Distress Oxides. I'm using a stencil, and I'm using a strip of gessoed white heavy-duty smooth cardstock. In picking colors to make a rainbow, I decided to do the same thing that Missy did, and instead of using a red, I used some pink. That's picked raspberry. I also used spiced marmalade for the orange, squeezed lemonade for the yellow, twisted citron for the green, peacock feathers for the blue, blueprint sketch for the indigo, and some seedless preserves for the violet. Once I finished putting down all of those colors, I am sprinkling some water over the top. Now, I have to be very honest with you. The first footage you saw, I had to recreate it because my footage came out all blurry, and that's been happening a lot to me lately. I have to kind of figure out why that's happening, but I just couldn't start out a video with a few minutes of blurry footage. So I just showed how I did it. I did the same thing, and it's actually so much fun to do that I didn't mind doing it again. What I'm doing now is I'm using all those same colors, but instead of putting them through the stencil, I'm trying to get, and I know I won't be able to do it the way Missy does it, but I'm trying to get some color on the bottom part of the layout, and I didn't want to use a dauber. I wanted to make this look a little more free-flowing the way she did. She kind of had a different way of doing it. Missy's color spots look amazing and less like lines than mine, but I decided that this is how I was going to approach this. So I put a lot of layers of color. I found that once I added the water to the Distress Oxides, it didn't have the same level of intensity as it did when I just put it down with a dauber, which makes sense because it's diluted. But I wanted there to be a similarity in the intensity. So I tried a bunch of different things. I put a lot of layers on. I went in with a dauber and then I wet it. I'm using the packaging technique to try to move the color around so it doesn't look like I used dauber. And after many layers of color and trying all these different things, I was happy with the way that it came out. And I do think that it's pretty close to the colors that I made on that strip that's going to go on top of it. While I'm adding lots of color to my background, I just wanted to mention a couple of things that I have learned from watching literally hundreds of Missy Whitten videos. I don't know if you've watched all of her videos or many of her videos as well, but she has a lot of wisdom in her videos, and I feel like it's really helped me over the years. I can't even begin to try to communicate all of it, but certain things have made an impact on me, and I just wanted to share them with you. So one of the things that I learned from Missy Whitten is to use gesso. Make sure that you use gesso on your layouts. And you don't have to always use gesso, but if you want to blend colors and if you want, I don't know, a certain look that allows you to be able to combine colors and go back and reactivate colors, and also, in my case, clean up messes, because that happens to me a lot, it's a good idea to use gesso. I also noticed that she always uses, or almost always uses, more than one shade of the same color when she's creating a background. I noticed that she likes to use a lot of shades of, say, blue or pink or yellow, and that's something that I noticed and I like to do myself. She also puts multiple layers on. I noticed that she goes back into her backgrounds when she makes them with color, and she adds multiple layers, and I try to do that as well. I really feel like that adds to the intensity of the color, and it just makes the colors look more vibrant. I also learned from her that you never have to take anything as is. You can cut something in half. You could use it in a different way than anyone might expect. And she's extremely original in how she thinks to use things. And that's something that I really love about her videos. I also learned that you don't have to use pattern paper to make a layout. And here's an example of a layout that has no pattern paper on it. So while I was chatting, I was going back and adding layers of color, as I mentioned, but then I also took my little paintbrush and I added splatters underneath each of the colors. And that way I feel like those blocks of color have a little bit of a transition where there's less of the color and then there's the white paper. I sprinkled some water over the strip that's going to go on the background and also the background, and I sopped up the water with some paper towel, and that makes a really cool effect on the background. And then I also go in with some watered down white acrylic paint and make some splatters as well. So I add a lot of white splatters, and then I also add a couple of black splatters, and I'm always worried about adding black splatters. Did not like that black splatter, and then I am cleaning it up, and then in cleaning it up I made a bigger mess, but no worries, I do end up cleaning it up, and look, there's even more of the black left behind on the bottom, but that's okay. I do end up covering that up so you don't have to see that. I made some splatters by hitting my finger against the base of the straw, and then after I made some splatters, I remembered that taking a pair of scissors and hitting it against the base of the straw makes some really nice, fine, tiny splatters that were kind of what I had in mind for this particular layout. So that worked out pretty well. I didn't make any large drips this time. And now I'm going back in with the blue and the indigo colors to cover up where I had to remove that large black dot before. I really liked these colors. I liked the way they were really bright colors. The only thing was I thought that the citron color, the green color, I thought that would be a little brighter when I looked at the ink pad and just from hearing citron. I just thought it would be a little brighter. It does end up being fine, but it took a lot more layers of that than I thought. And then also you could see that the yellow isn't quite as dark as the other colors. So I do go in a bit and I do darken that up a little bit. But first I'm going to put a black border on this strip. I just use some scraps of black paper and I'm attaching them down with the ATG adhesive. And now I'm going to attach the whole unit down to the background. And I didn't worry too much about the colors matching up as far as being like right on top of each other. I thought that that wouldn't necessarily matter. Now I am mounting my photo. So this photo is a photo of my daughter's roommate's cat. They got the cat when they were sharing an apartment, so my daughter has spent a lot of time with the cat. His name is Moscato. And we don't know too much about him. We know that somebody found him outside, like living outside, and they ended up bringing him inside, but the person that took him in couldn't keep him. So her roommate took him and lived with them for probably 2 or 3 years. I found this in my thicker title bin. This says "Life is Good Here," and I thought that was perfect because my daughter told me that at first he kept trying to escape, but then in time he didn't want to go near the door. And when they brought him outside of their apartment, there was an indoor area, but it had a lot of windows. It was almost like almost looked like the outside. When they brought him into that area, he would dart back to their apartment again. So he grew to really like being inside. So I thought this was the perfect title. Now I popped up the photo on some adhesive foam. And now I'm thinking I want to punch out some shapes. I'm thinking I'm going to use stars. And so I decided I really didn't need to make 2 of these, but I did. I wanted to have another rainbow strip. So I just go in and I use the exact same colors, and I cover these 2 strips of paper with those 2 colors. And I didn't show you the whole thing because it took a while, and I already did the same thing through the stencil. But basically, I just wanted to have some papers that had the colors on them to use on the background. And you can see I'm using the same steps. I'm going in and I'm sprinkling some water on them. But I don't do all of the same splatters, like with the white and the black, like I did with the strip that goes across the background. So I thought it would be nice to have a scalloped border along each edge of that strip. So I punched that out of that paper. And those stars, I just found those in my stash. I was working on another layout where I needed stars, and I was looking for stars, and I finally, too late to use on the other layout, but perfect for this layout, I found some. I think those are Studio Calico stars. They're a nice white glittery star, and they come in 3 different sizes. So I thought that would be perfect. And I end up peeling those up because the next day I was thinking how I could see why Missy put the colors kind of going down almost in like a triangle on her layout. I thought that that makes sense to have the colors behind the title. So I decided to do the same thing, but mine's on the other side of the layout. So now I'm just putting down the color, just extending it a little bit using all the same colors and making it like almost down to the bottom. And I didn't do all the colors, of course, because I didn't need to do the ones that were far away from the title, but I just extended those 4 colors, the green, the blue, the indigo, and the violet, down a little bit. And then because I covered up the splatters that were on the bottom, I do go back in and recreate that effect on the bottom of each one of those areas of color. And to make the splatters small, like I did before, I'm using this teeny tiny little brush. I feel like that's the best for teeny tiny little splatters. And I keep accidentally mushing the paint all the way at the bottom. I didn't want it all the way at the bottom, but because I had gesso on, I was able to clean that up. And I'm not sure who started or when it was started to add gesso underneath watercolors. When you're a watercolorist, which I'm not, but with people who are watercolorists, they will use paper that is specifically made for watercolors, and it definitely isn't gessoed. I always thought, at least, that gesso was for use under acrylic paints. Like when you buy a canvas, you put gesso underneath it, and then that keeps the acrylic or the oil paints from seeping into the fabric of the canvas. So I'm not sure when that was started, and I never would have thought to do that, and I was very confused for a long time, but now I understand that it definitely creates a great barrier that you can use if you're messy like me and you have to constantly clean things up off of your layouts. So I'm putting those stars back around. And now I'm using some star punches. And at first I thought I would just leave a little teeny tiny border around the edge of each star. And I decided that I wanted to be able to, wanted you to be able to see some of the white border. So I decided to put all of the punched out stars. I decided to make them a little bit smaller, like one size smaller than the size of the star. I hope that makes sense. So I just did a little bit of switching around. And I had to cut out a few things, but a lot of the stars were already punched out, but just had to be relocated. And I couldn't find the tiny little purple star for the bottom right-hand star, so I had to punch out another one of those. But as soon as I punched it out, I found the one I was looking for, of course. For those teeny tiny little stars, I put a little black enamel dot in the center. I'm not sure if they were enamel dots or they were puffy dots. They might be puffy dots. And I was thinking that for the center of each of the stars that had the punched out paper on them, I would try to match the color. And even with all the enamel dots that I've collected over the years, I still struggled with some of the colors. The blue was a little hard to find the same color, but I thought that it worked. You could see it's a little bit darker than the color that's in the background. I used, as I always do, my photo corner punch to punch out some different colors for the corners of the photo. I tried to use the colors that went with the colors that were behind the photo. Now I'm gluing all of those stars down, and I had to use wet glue because those stars are coated with glitter, so the ATG adhesive would be too hard to get them to stay down, and it probably wouldn't work. So I used the Elmer's gel glue, which I like a lot. I added a couple more stars. For these stars, I punched out the same color as the color behind it. I punched it from that paper that I made earlier, and I popped them up on some foam to give them a little bit of dimension. I did some journaling as well. I did that off camera though, and you'll see that in the close-ups that are going to start right about now. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. In the description box, you'll find links to the channels of all the other scrapbookers who are following along with this challenge. I hope if you like this video, you'll give it a thumbs up. I want to say thank you so much to everybody who watches and likes and subscribes to my channel. I am so happy to be a part of this hop. I hope everybody has a great day, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye, everybody.